So I'm really pleased to introduce and help introduce the next session at today's Edtech Podcast. We are on the live podcast stage, and I'm just going to let you know who the young man standing next to me is. His name is Alex Phillips. He runs an online business through Shopify, and he uses Instagram. But Alex is doing extremely well. He's turning over a significant amount on those platforms, and he's pretty much an expert on internet marketing using technology. He's still in school, which is great, and he does this outside of his school hours. So much so that just a few months ago, Alex was featured on Forbes.com for the work that he's been doing, and he's been, an inspiration to his community, to a lot of the other entrepreneurs at the company that I run, which is called Ultra Education, and we teach entrepreneurship to kids. So we use business and enterprise and entrepreneurship as a vehicle to help develop some of the skills and some of the new life skills that we now know that young people are going to need. And Alex is a great example of the types of businesses that young people can do at any age using technology. And I'm sure he's infused lots of his learning from what he's picked up in school to be able to do the numbers, do the copy, understand what's going on in the world. He's really good at kind of identifying and picking up kind of hot products. And he's actually managed to make a few products go viral himself. So that's Alex, and Alex will be introducing the lovely ladies who will be emceeing for the next session.
Thanks, Julian, for that introduction. So this session is going to be a review on this school week stories. And so I'd like to introduce the stage Cath and Jess. Thank you.
Hello. Well, politics-wise, of course, we had Angela Rayner make her first big announcement on the long-awaited National Education Service. Now, 2 years we've been waiting to see what the National Education Service is actually going to contain. Anybody aware of any policies in the National Education Service so far? So this week we have an announcement on two, and interestingly enough, they're not revolutionary. They are actually recycling of old policies that the Tories came up with a few years ago.
So which one's she gone for? What's she now become?
So the big one that made the headlines was this one about trying to deal with off-rolling. So exclusions has been big in the headlines especially in recent months, school exclusions. One of the policies that Angela Rayner has proposed to deal with this is that schools stay accountable for the GCSE results of any student that they remove from their role in the years coming up to GCSEs. So I think this is a fairly uncontroversial policy, and actually it was first revealed by Nikki Morgan in 2015 in her white paper for education excellence everywhere. It got support from across the spectrum, so really what's happened here is the Tories have missed a trick. They never implemented that policy. It's just fallen by the wayside. Now Angela Rayner's picked up that policy and made a big headline splash with it. I think it's, to be honest, broadly popular across.
Sounds pretty smart from Rayner because she's going with something that member support, which is the National Education Service, and she's keeping quite traditional lines on that. But behind the scenes, it sounds like maybe she's being a bit more pragmatic, a bit more savvy, looking at stuff which already has cross-party support. Does that sound fair?
Absolutely, I think that's just what she's doing. And in fact, the other policy was the census loophole policy. Again, a non-controversial policy to do with exclusions, is that at the moment, I think anyone who works in schools knows that the funding for the year is calculated by the autumn census, and then the accountability measures are calculated on the January census. So there's like a loophole, there's a window in which it's ideal time for schools to lose pupils. If you lose them after the autumn census, before the January census, you lose the funding, so you gain the funding, but you lose the results.
That's really interesting.
So it's an obvious loophole to close, and it's another big, easy win policy that will get broad support across the schools. So yeah, she's been very pragmatic.
So Rayner coming up with some good ideas. And in fact, there was a pretty popular story. We had a lot of hits on this week. was about Drew Povey, who's obviously the star of Educating Manchester, and he's been one of those accused of off-roading. Do you want to just quickly put that in a nutshell?
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting story. So Educating Greater Manchester, a big hit series, in fact, such a big hit that they commissioned a second series, which was supposed to be due out for the autumn. I'm not sure now what the timescale is. So yes, he's been on suspension for several months over accusations of fiddling the figures, possibly to do with off-rolling, and having previously given evidence to the Education Select Committee that his school did not exclude any pupils. So, big name, high profile, gone out against exclusions and is now under investigation. I think, to be honest, the biggest story, the most relevant thing about that story is this issue of transparency. Will we ever know what happened to Drew Povey? Will we ever know the story behind his case? Actually, it's possible we might not. And the reason for this links back into Angela Rayner here. Go with me for a second. So, Drew Povey's school is council maintained. If we as journalists want to get information about that review into investigation into Drew Povey, we're not going to be given the documents. If we wanted to do the same thing in an academy, we'd be able to request those documents and see what had gone on behind the scenes.
So there's potentially more transparency in the academy system. What's actually Angela Rayner said about academies? Is she going to scrap them?
So interestingly, Angela Rayner's base and the National Education Union, which might be seen to be more Angela Rayner's base, is against academisation. They're anti-academy by policy. And Angela Rayner has come out to say she's not anti-academy. She doesn't mind whether your school is an academy or a maintained school. It's all about, is it a good school? Which I think is very pragmatic, to be honest, and especially in this sense, academies are more transparent than local authority schools. They have their problems. We've all seen the scandals, but local authority maintained schools are not a panacea, and they do have big problems of their own, especially over this transparency issue. So Angela Rayner coming down hard on academies, saving her money not to put into school structures, not into rolling back academies, but saving her money to pledge it, if she does have money for education, to pledge it into teacher pay and into school budgets is a very smart move.
Okay, so